What's going on, everyone? My name is Eric Piccioni. I'm an American living in Russia. Just wanted to make this video specifically around what it costs to live in Russia. I actually had a handful of people that were asking like the budget breakdowns or just a cost analysis of how much we actually spend. So I wanted to go through January of 2025 and give you guys like as best as I can a breakdown of different expenses that we experience and kind of give you some context throughout. So this was a pretty expensive month actually. Like I try to be pretty tight on our money, but my wife was pregnant at the time in January and we didn't have the luxury of cooking all the time at our place. We usually just order takeout because I have an idea of how to cook, but I think for kind of what it was worth, it's nice to be able to order from restaurants or even fast food. I understand it's not the healthiest food of all time, but we try to, if anything we spend most of our money on, it's going to be food. I'd rather do that than spend it on like jewelry or clothing, because I'm a big foodie. I have a nice little dad stomach, or dad bod if you call it. So a lot of what we spent this month on was food. So going down the list, this is the conversion, easy math, we'll say 100 rubles to $1, so 100 to 1. So for the month of January, we spent 46,908 rubles on groceries. So we do cook a lot at home. We order a lot. We typically will buy in bulk from a store like Metro, which is like a Costco or Sam's Club in the States. I'm sure there's other wholesalers out there that will be comparable, but you buy like large quantities of stuff, and we'll typically buy from there like once a month and then just cook as we can throughout the month on those large quantities. So that was a large amount of what we spent every single month, and that was kind of a shock actually seeing it on paper, because in the States we would budget maybe $400 a month, $450 for a family of 3. Now with a family of 4, I'm sure that will go up a bit, but that was a pretty big shock. It's actually not a big difference from the States, was groceries. Now we are buying a lot more fresh food and we're eating more meals constantly. We're not just eating like rice and beans and just like pastas. So we're able to maybe get better quality foods and meats and have like more protein-based meals instead of just like pasta and just a little bit of chicken. Like we can order larger amounts of meats, so bigger quantity purchases and more proteins in this, and barbecues and barbecue chicken and pork and stuff. So we're cooking quite a bit more. So there is some to that, but nonetheless, it's still quite a bit. And going into the restaurant side or like fast food, another one. Now I understand this is a big one for most, but we spent 16,332 rubles on restaurants, which covers McDonald's, maybe some sushi if we're feeling a little luxurious, as there isn't a ton of options nearby. We usually have like 2 or 3 places that we'll order from. Our go-to is far and away Pizza Fabrica, which if you guys could sponsor me, that would be amazing. Pizza Fabrica is like my soul. If I could put an IV and like shoot pizza through my veins, I would love that. They have something in their pizza. I don't know what they do with their sauce, but we get their pizzas for like 6 or 7 or 700 rubles, so like $7 per pizza. And for us, that's like super cheap because it's $20 a pizza in the States. So that was nice. That was a big bit. That's about a majority of what we spent our money on, actually. Now that I think about it, is like 80% of restaurants was pizza or something like that, or we would get sushi from Pizza Fabrica. They're solid. So I know they're not very present in Russia. They have some in St. Petersburg, I believe, and I think they have one in Moscow. Of course, they have most restaurants in Moscow, but surprisingly, Yaroslavl has a Pizza Fabrica. So that's awesome. It's our favorite restaurant for sure in the city because our daughter goes to play at the playground there. They have like an indoor playground, so it's a fun place to go. So it's like a guilty pleasure to go out and eat. And we'll typically bring that. Also part of it is we're having meals with not only our family but also Polina's mom and dad and you know their and my brother-in-law and Polina's grandma and my wife's grandma rather. So like the whole family will get together and we'll often buy food for everyone. And like we had, you know, New Year's party, we bought groceries and food for everyone. So there is some to that. Also with Polina being pregnant, you know, we're eating out and buying a lot. So hopefully I've covered that point. And then the next is just miscellaneous costs. So I mentioned Polina is pregnant. So whenever she delivered now, just in case you didn't know, she's delivered the baby on January 26th. So on that day, went ahead and got flowers and like the whole shebang. So we got a nice little gift for her. Ended up getting flowers. We bought her some shoes last month. We bought our daughter some shoes, and we don't have a car, so we took taxis all throughout the city to go to the doctor. We probably went to the doctor 4 or 5 times and just visited just to make sure everything's okay with the baby. We paid for utilities in this cost, but all together, so utilities, flowers, shoes, taxi, everything bundled together was 29,168 rubles. So about, call it $300 for utilities, flowers, everything that I just mentioned. So we spent around $165 for fast food and restaurants and more like eating out. And then $470 for groceries. So collectively, right around $635 for groceries and food, which is, I mean, to be fair, like we've always wanted to spend money on like good food and eating quality food for the most part. You know, we'll have our luxurious purchases or like luxury food or dining out moments, but we've always had a budget in the States. It was typically all in for food, like well under $700. That isn't terrible. So $63,240 for eating out, groceries, food in general. 29,168 rubles for miscellaneous costs like, you know, taxis, utilities, beauty, flowers, you name it. It's all going to be bundled in there. The way that our budgeting app on our bank goes, it just kind of gives us the top purchases, and from there it'll categorize it down. So that's usually what it comes down to. And this is such a nice thing to see because our utility costs in the States when we used to have our house was, I mean, man, it was $400 just for electric, just for the AC to stay on, because it needs to stay on year round in order for the house to stay kind of comfortable, and your skin can get really ashy. So it's insane to see all costs, gas, water, electric. Like our water bill was like $3 in January, and then our I think our gas bill was $2. So anyway, it's crazy to see that all in the cost across the entire housing is like 11,000 rubles, so like $120. Now I understand relatively that can be pricey, but I've seen other people all across Russia and they'll say their utilities are like 20,000 rubles, 30,000 rubles. So, you know, I guess it depends on your usage and whatever. I'm sure there's plenty of factors, but that's kind of where we're at. And the beautiful thing is, and you guys might already know this if you don't, we bought our apartment here all cash. So we don't have any debt on, I mean, really any debt at all. Like even in the States, we don't have any consumer debt. So we're really in a fortunate position. We've always been very tight with our monetary usage. We've been very specific on where we want to put our money to have a good life and to live a good life without restricting ourselves, because we've always been a believer that the borrower is slave to the lender. So the second you give yourself up to someone where you owe them money, you're essentially a slave to them, and you really don't have control over your life. So that was a huge plus for us, was to be able to pay our property off with all cash, because we had sold our house in the States. Thankfully, we had made enough to be able to use that to buy something here. So, we're very fortunate. But all in living in Russia for an entire month, our total expenses came out to 92,408 rubles. So right around $93 or $930 all in US dollars. So that's crazy to me, because in perspective, the daycare costs just to put our daughter in a school for her to have someone watch over her and just teach her basic things was $950 just for daycare. So the fact that we can get all of our food, we can get around where we need to around the city, we can get our groceries, we pay for utilities, we have all of our needs met, and our daughter is at daycare or school, kindergarten. The term is more loose here, it seems, but she's in school right now. She's in a kindergarten, and that's it is technically, it's not fully free. It's a nice kindergarten. I think we pay 3,000 rubles for her to go there, and we want her to have a good education. We think that's such a valuable piece of a kid's life, is quality education. So for an amazing school, we have her in dance classes. Each dance class is 200 rubles, $2 for her to hang out and dance with other friends. So anyway, all in for housing, for everything, to be under $950 is insane. And what's even crazier is, and this is something that you may or may not already know about Russia, but a lot of people have been telling us to do this, and we finally did it today, was we applied for maternity leave, where essentially, because we had our child in Russia, you get paid from the government to be able to just support the child's life, whether that's for tuition or for housing, maybe to buy them, or have a percentage of those funds to buy a property and be able to give it to your kids, or for necessary and ordinary expenses for the kids, which I think is so awesome to be able to have some kind of support from the government, especially with kids, because in the States, it's you have this kid and they don't do anything for you. The only thing they do is take from you, and they ask, hey, where's our $15,000, $20,000 to pay us for the thing that you brought into this world, and we just assisted along the way. There's not much assistance from the States on that side of things. You'll often pay the government to have a child, which is, I find, funny. And then on the other side, in Russia, the common joke is you don't drive a car, the car drives you in Russia. So in Russia, the funny thing is that you don't have a kid and you pay for it, that the government pays you to have a kid. So anyway, silly jokes that I laugh about. But that's my sense of humor, everyone. Thank you for watching. But did these numbers surprise you? Did you expect to see a expense under 100,000 rubles or $1,000 a month? For a family of three and a half, 4 people now, did you expect that this was in line with what you had in mind? I'm curious on your thoughts. So leave a comment below. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more content like this. I would love to see more ideas out there. I would love to film where I can, as we have a kid now that's a newborn. It's hard to find some quiet time. So happy to film a video, or just maybe give top of mind thoughts on these things. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, check out the description. There's my Substack channel where you can check in with updates as I find more posts, or my Telegram channel, which will be a good way to stay connected with me in the future. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. God bless. Stay tuned.